Idly host students, Mr. Kaczynski with you, and we're going to solve some quadratic equations using square roots. I mean, all we got to do here is, if we just take the square root of both sides, we're one step ahead of, or we're one step closer rather to having this answer, because the square root of x plus 2 squared is just x plus 2. X plus 2 times x plus 2 is x plus 2 squared. So over here, we get plus or minus the square root of 6. And then the last thing we got to do is just subtract 2 from both sides. And we'll get our answer, which is x is negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 6. And I'm not going to do this every time, but I say we check some answers here. Let's go to our calculator. Y equals, let's do x plus 2 squared. And we'll put the 6 in there, graph it. Let's go trace negative 2 minus the square root of 6. Yep, that equals 6. And then negative 2 plus the square root of 6. And that also equals 6. All right, let's do it again. This one's a little bit more. We got to add 9 to both. The whole thing is you got to get that x plus 2 squared by itself. So maybe I'll show what I'm doing here on each one, but I probably won't do that the rest of the way. I will show my equivalent equations, though. All right, so when I do that, I get 3 times x minus 4 squared equals 9. Now I'm going to divide both sides by 3. Okay, and that isolates that perfect square. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to isolate that perfect square. The way you do that is kind of opposite order of operations. The first thing you do normally in order of operations is exponents. It's going to be the last thing we undo. We know that from way back in basically our first chapter. All right, 9 divided by 3 is 3. Now I'm going to take the square root of both sides, take the square root of this, take the square root of this, and it's going to give us x minus 4 is plus or minus the square root of 3. And then we're just going to add 4 to both sides, and we'll have our solution. It's going to be x is 4 plus or minus the square root of 3. I think I'm going to check my answer one more time. My home setup, so my handwriting, it's not the best here. 3 times x minus 4 squared minus 9. Oops, let's get rid of this here. There we go. And we're trying to find out when that equals 0. I don't really need that there, so I'm going to get rid of it. Let's graph it. All right, 2 roots. We're looking at them. Let's see if one of them is 4 minus the square root of 3. Yeah, that gives us 0. What about 4 plus the square root of 3? Of course, this is going to work. It does. All right. So remember, you should be trying these problems before you actually watch me solve them. So press pause and try these on your own, and then press play. All right, so I'm going to add 4 to both sides. I'm going to divide both sides by 2. I'm going to take the square root of both sides. And then I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. There we go. Feel free to check my answers. Again, you try this before you check my answer. Or before you check my work. So press pause. All right, let's subtract 7 from both sides. Let's divide both sides by negative 2. Let's take the square root of both sides. Square root of 2 there. And then add 5 to both sides. Boy, my handwriting is just atrocious, but trying. This mouse is a little touchier than my one at work. There we go. So yeah, feel free to graph it and check that those 2 roots give us 3. All right, now let's go again here. How about add 7 to both sides? 3 times x plus 8 squared gives me 7. Let's divide both sides by 3. It's going to give me 7/3. Oops, this is still squared. I haven't taken the square root of it yet. And then let's take the square root of both sides. Oh boy, x plus 8 equals plus or minus the square root of 7/3. And then x, when we subtract 8 from both sides, it's -8 plus or minus the square root of 7/3. For right now, this is probably good enough. The actual answer in the back of the book is probably this. I don't feel like getting into why this is the case, but square root of 8 times square root of 3, so it'll be square root of 21/3. That's probably the real answer that's going to be in the back of the book. But this is going to be acceptable for us for right now. And one more here. Let's add 3 to both sides. Divide both sides by -5. So it's -7 divided by -5 is going to be 7/5. Let's see. Take the square root of both sides. X plus 6 is going to be plus or minus the square root of 7/5. And then subtract 6 from both sides. Here's the answer I'm going to take from you for right now, especially at this point in the year. That's what we'll take. The answer in the book is probably -6 plus or minus the square root of, oh, that's not right. How about -6 plus or minus the square root of 35. Sorry, that's awful handwriting. 35/5. But don't worry about where I got that. Maybe you're seeing it, and if you are, good for you. All right, I think that's all I've got for you for right now. So, yeah, that'll be good. See